What if the ancestors of Africa knew secrets that modern science is only just beginning to discover? They called it superstition. Science dismissed it. Yet the more we dig, the more we realize, maybe African spirituality was science all along. They said African spirituality was nothing but myth, magic, and fear. But modern science is proving otherwise. From herbs that cure diseases to cosmic maps hidden in oral traditions, the clash between spirituality and science may just be an illusion. Welcome to a journey where the unseen meets the proven. African spirituality sees the universe as alive, where spirits and ancestors guide human destiny. Energy is not just physical but spiritual, flowing through people, objects, and sacred spaces. Healing is holistic, treating body, mind, and spirit using herbs, rituals, and ancestral power. Nature is sacred. Rivers, forests, and mountains are living beings with divine presence. Life is balance. Harmony between the visible world and the unseen realm ensures well-being. What if African spirituality and science are not enemies, but partners telling the same story in different languages? One speaks through ritual, myth, and symbols, while the other uses formulas, evidence, and machines. Both seek to explain the unseen forces shaping our world and guiding our existence. Herbs turned into medicine, cosmic tales mirroring astronomy, energy fields echoing spiritual power. Perhaps our ancestors were scientists of the soul, just as today's experts are explorers of matter. So, is it really clash, or hidden harmony? Reflect on this, share with others, and join the discussion in the comments below. For centuries, African spirituality has been painted as superstition, a realm of drumming priests, ancestral invocations, and sacred objects dismissed by science as myth. Yet, the deeper we look, the more startling the parallels become. What if those ancient rituals carried codes of energy now studied in physics? What if herbal cures whispered by ancestors are the foundations of modern medicine? The question is not whether spirituality and science are enemies, but whether they are two halves of a whole truth. Science, with its microscopes, telescopes, and laboratories, thrives on evidence. African spirituality, on the other hand, leans on lived experience, intuition, and the unseen. At first glance, these worlds seem incompatible, one demanding proof, the other relying on faith and tradition. But history reveals something different. Scientists often stumble upon discoveries that echo ancestral wisdom. The lines between myth and measurable fact are thinner than we imagine. Imagine this: in villages across Africa, healers crush leaves and roots, invoking spirits for healing. Centuries later, laboratories extract active compounds from the very same plants, quinine from the bark of African trees to treat malaria, or vocamine from herbs that fight infections. To the scientist, it is chemistry. To the healer, it is spirit-guided knowledge. To both, it is healing. The clash fades, and a strange harmony begins to emerge. This paradox forces us to rethink everything we thought we knew. Could African spirituality be an ancient science encoded in metaphor, ritual, and symbolism? Could science simply be a new dialect of a much older truth? If so, then rejecting spirituality as mere superstition is not only short-sighted, it risks erasing centuries of wisdom that modern research is only now beginning to validate. And so, as we begin this journey into the heart of African spirituality versus science, we must ask, are they rivals fighting for dominance, or are they reflections of the same cosmic mirror? The answers may shock you, unsettle you, or inspire you, but one thing is certain, they will make you see both science and spirituality in a way you never have before. To understand the clash, or harmony, between African spirituality and science, we must first enter the worldview of African traditions. In this world, life is not divided into the sacred and the secular, everything is connected. The river is not just water, but a living being with spirit. The tree is not merely wood, but a bridge between earth and sky. The ancestors are not gone, they walk beside the living, guiding, warning, and blessing. In African cosmology, the invisible is just as real as the visible. At the heart of this worldview lies spirit. Spirits inhabit people, animals, objects, and places. They are not distant gods locked in the heavens, but active presences shaping daily life. To an African priest or healer, communicating with spirits is not superstition but survival, ensuring crops grow, families are protected, and communities thrive. Where science demands a laboratory, spirituality requires a shrine, a drumbeat, or a trance. Both are methods of unlocking hidden truths. Equally powerful is the belief in energy, not as electricity or atoms, but as a vital life force. Among the Yoruba, it is called the divine power that makes things happen. Among the Igbo, it is Chi, the spark of destiny within every person. This unseen energy flows through rituals, sacrifices, chants, and sacred objects. For the spiritualist, this energy heals, protects, and restores balance. For the scientist, the language may differ, biological rhythms, quantum fields, or electromagnetic waves, but the concept of invisible forces remains strikingly familiar. Healing in African spirituality is not just about curing disease, it is about restoring harmony between body, spirit, and community. A healer uses herbs, yes, but also prayers, chants, and ancestral invocations. To the outsider, it may seem like theater. But studies have revealed that many of these rituals also reduce stress, enhance belief in recovery, and strengthen the immune system. The placebo effect in science is what spirituality calls faith, the belief that healing is already underway. Finally, nature is the ultimate temple. Sacred groves, rivers, and mountains are treated with reverence, not just as resources to exploit but as dwellings of the divine. Science describes ecosystems and biodiversity, spirituality describes spirits and gods of the land. Both recognize a truth: humanity is woven into the fabric of nature, and violating it comes at a cost. African spirituality thus teaches balance, a lesson the modern world, with its climate crises, is beginning to rediscover. If African spirituality looks inward and upward toward the unseen, science looks outward and downward into the measurable. Science is built on observation, experimentation, and proof, asking not what the ancestors say, but what the evidence reveals. It reduces mystery into formulas, rituals into repeatable processes, and sacred spaces into laboratories. Yet its goal is not so different: to explain the forces that govern life, health, and the universe itself. For centuries, science was used as a weapon to dismiss African wisdom. Colonial scholars labeled ancestral rituals as witchcraft and herbal medicine as primitive. European doctors often ignored indigenous healers, only to later discover the same cures in their own laboratories. Astronomy in Africa, with its sophisticated tracking of stars and seasons, was dismissed as folklore, until modern astrophysics confirmed the accuracy of traditional knowledge. Science elevated itself as superior, often blind to the deep intelligence embedded in oral traditions. But science also achieved wonders. It gave humans vaccines, electricity, airplanes, and the internet. Diseases that once decimated populations, from smallpox to polio, were conquered through its methods. Telescopes revealed galaxies billions of light-years away. Microscopes exposed invisible worlds of cells and bacteria. Science thrives because it demands consistency. A medicine must work not only in one village but in every hospital across the globe. This is both its strength and its blind spot. Because science rejects what it cannot measure, it often stumbles when confronted with phenomena that resist explanation. How do we measure faith? How do we quantify ancestral guidance in dreams? How do we capture the healing power of ritual, beyond chemical compounds? For science, what cannot be weighed or calculated does not exist. For spirituality, what cannot be seen is often the most powerful of all. The two systems appear locked in conflict, but perhaps only because they speak different languages. Yet history whispers of overlap. Many modern breakthroughs echo what African spirituality long held sacred. The idea that everything is energy, once mystical, is now central to physics. The concept of interconnectedness is mirrored in ecology and quantum theory. What science discovers in the laboratory, spirituality has often preserved in myths, symbols, and rituals. The clash may not be between truth and falsehood, but between two ways of describing the same universe. Throughout history, African spirituality and science have often collided, sometimes violently. Missionaries and colonial doctors dismissed indigenous practices as dangerous superstition. A healer invoking spirits over a patient was branded a witch, while a doctor wielding a scalpel was hailed as enlightened. Divination, used to predict outcomes and guide decisions, was seen as fraud by science, which demanded data, not cowrie shells. In this clash, spirituality was marginalized, and science crowned itself supreme. Yet the very areas where they clashed most fiercely reveal fascinating convergences. Take herbal medicine. For centuries, African healers treated malaria with bitter barks and fevers with roots. Colonial scientists mocked these practices, until they extracted quinine and artemisinin, compounds now central to global medicine. The healer said the spirits guided him to the tree. The scientists said chemical analysis revealed the cure. Both arrived at the same truth through different paths. Or consider astronomy. The Dogon people of Mali preserved stories of Sirius, a star system invisible to the naked eye, describing its orbit and density long before modern telescopes confirmed it. To scientists, this was shocking. How could an illiterate people know what only high-powered instruments could prove? To the Dogon, the answer was simple: the knowledge came from ancestral spirits. The clash becomes a paradox. The scientific fact exists, but its source defies science's own logic. Even in healing rituals, where chanting, drumming, and community participation are central, science finds unexpected alignment. What spirituality calls spirit possession, science might describe as altered states of consciousness. What spirituality calls faith healing, science now studies under placebo and psychosomatic responses, where belief itself triggers biological change. The names differ, but the outcomes often align: healing, relief, and restoration of balance. These convergences suggest that what looks like opposition may, in fact, be complementarity. Spirituality provides meaning, context, and guidance. Science provides method, measurement, and replication. Together, they reveal a more complete picture of reality, one that neither system could capture alone. Instead of enemies locked in battle, perhaps they are partners divided by language but united by purpose, understanding the mysteries of existence. Today, African spirituality is no longer just an echo of the past. It is a living force, woven into daily life across the continent and the diaspora. In villages, shrines remain sacred spaces. In cities, healers still blend herbs with prayers. Even in modern hospitals, many patients quietly consult both doctors and diviners, seeking a balance that neither science nor spirituality alone seems able to provide. The coexistence continues, a silent testimony to humanity's hunger for both proof and meaning. Science, for its part, is slowly circling back to truths that spirituality safeguarded for centuries. Researchers now validate the healing properties of plants once dismissed as bush medicine. Psychologists recognize the therapeutic power of ritual, rhythm, and belief. Environmental scientists urge respect for ecosystems, echoing spiritual traditions that treated rivers and forests as sacred beings. What spirituality encoded in myth, science translates into data. Both affirm a shared principle: balance sustains life. But tension remains. In some places, spirituality is still branded as backward, while science is mistrusted as foreign or disconnected from human values. This dual suspicion reveals the deeper truth, that neither system alone can fully satisfy humanity's quest for knowledge and meaning. Science explains the mechanics, but spirituality answers the why. Science can cure the disease, but spirituality heals the soul. One without the other leaves gaps too vast to ignore. Looking ahead, Africa may hold the key to bridging this divide. Imagine universities where physicists study quantum fields alongside elders teaching energy rituals. Imagine hospitals where surgeons and herbalists collaborate, merging chemistry with spirit. Imagine climate policies informed not just by statistics but by spiritual respect for nature's sacred balance. Such a synthesis would not only honor ancestral wisdom but also push science into realms it has yet to explore. So we end where we began, with a paradox. African spirituality and science, clash, or hidden harmony. Perhaps they are not two rival paths, but two sides of the same coin, each reflecting truths the other cannot fully capture. And now, the challenge is yours. Reflect on this possibility, share your thoughts, and join the discussion. Because the future of knowledge may not lie in choosing one over the other, but in daring to embrace both. What if the greatest truths are not hidden in laboratories or shrines alone, but in the space where the two meet? African spirituality and science may not be rivals, but partners whispering the same secrets in different tongues. From herbs to healing, from stars to spirits, both reveal fragments of a larger mystery. The real question is not which is right, but how much more we could uncover if they walked hand in hand. If this journey moved you, don't just watch, like, comment, share, and subscribe to keep the conversation alive.